We will continue today's presentations with Andras Cseh. He is an architect, educator, researcher and writer with a strong focus on learning spaces and spatial education. He is the co-founder of Can Architects, who are working on revolutionizing school architecture in Hungary based on multidisciplinary research and participative design. Andras has been teaching architecture for all ages at Cseh University for architecture students and as the founder of Can Edu for children and educators, while developing special learning toolkits and transforming national education legislation. His buildings are learning initiatives received with multiple national and international awards. Currently, he is working on introducing outdoor learning spaces and methods at Cannes Basalt School project. And he is also the winner of the first Beta Architectural Award prize in 2016. Thank you, Andras, for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's really loud. And thank you, Mark. And if I may, I will continue with the sense of care that you were mentioning, because I think that care is a professional kindness that we can give towards the environment, and I'm asking all of you to join me in that. So please take out your phones, everyone, really, and choose a picture and imagine it there. It's your photo there, and you can even hold it up if it's easier to imagine it there. But please just choose a picture that you would like to see on the screen now. It's a very good question. Yes. And then I ask for 2 minutes and then I arrange them. Because everyone is framing the world. We all have this. While I was thinking of what to bring to Beta, I was thinking of how I frame the world and my professional views of the world as an architect. And I realized that if I would hold up, as we do with children, my 2 hands, then I would use these 4 words at the moment that connects me with architecture, with the built environment, which is learning, peace, war, and space. When I'm speaking, of course, I'm here as myself, but I'm also representing my office, Can Architects. An office where this is our picture, if we put it there. I had the deadline that day before, but we're growing more and more. We didn't have time to draw the last 3 of us on the picture, but next time I'm gonna bring that. So let's get on with my pictures that I would choose from my phone for today's presentation. For me, this play and installation with students, and this picture especially, is still representing what I'm fascinated about, how spaces affect our learning processes, and how I think in all levels and every ages you can find the initiative to form your spaces around you. So this is a spaceship. It's a spaceship out of wood, which I believe we have to work towards to, and only frame it as much as possible, taking not too much material from the surroundings and taking the sustainable from the surroundings. And I'm really aiming to create spaces and make architecture that people want to touch, as you were mentioning with the materials, that really invites them for a use. We always do this through working, and working really helps getting rid of frustration. Therefore, this August, throughout whole August, we were organizing camps for Ukrainian refugee children. In the mornings they were learning Hungarian, because from September they're going to schools in Hungary. But in the afternoons we had all these workshops together, where somehow it's easy to sneak in some sweetness, also in material. I have to let you know that these were the fastest workshops that I had, because I promised them that after they're done with something, they can eat it. And usually some of the tasks take 10, 15, 45 minutes, even an hour. They did it in 2-3 minutes and then ate it. So everyone was just asking, please take the picture of mine and then I can eat it. But they really got into it. And the Basalt School that we are working on is trying to introduce outdoor learning to the whole Hungarian educational system, where sometimes you only need just special spatial situations with maybe one object. As for here in this ladder, this is a geometry class and a trust class, and also emotional learning, also teamwork. Because what's great in building together, especially in building not in model scale but in one-to-one scale, it doesn't matter how simple things, it's completely different neurological paths, it's completely different ways of experiencing spaces. And if you start building, you start recognizing and realizing your spaces, so you start being able to see them, to draw them, to let us know what's missing from your school, what's missing from outdoor. And we do that with children, we do that with teachers simultaneously, sometimes together, sometimes separately, to figure out how to develop their own curricula better with a pedagogical approach that they are really missing from the system. This is the very first one, when they realize that they have all community spaces, which is very rare, but they don't have nooks and crannies in the garden or in the school inside. So we created this pocket classrooms that children can weave, they can work on, they can climb on, they can really personalize and sometimes put together. It's for a bigger community, sometimes taken apart. It's for maybe one child or just a few, just for a group. If you like her, you can see the picture on Basalt School. If you don't like children, then we are not for you. And construction is so important because, fortunately for us, it's very difficult to build. So we need each other. We are not strong enough, we are not big enough, we are not high enough to hold one thing and support the other. This picture is about screwing in one screw. And the whole team is working on that. Two are holding on the end the screwdriver, one is pulling the trigger, and the others are holding the structure that needs to be fixed. And I really love the cooperation that comes very naturally. Teamwork is always forced, or usually forced in schools when you have to do something in teamwork. When it comes to constructing together, teamwork is natural. You cannot do it otherwise. And I like to connect age groups. So this marketplace was designed by students and built by students and us. And of course, the local children were interested, so they got into the construction, the real one, but they also wanted to add something on their own. So we were working together with the chief architect of the village. And by the end, they constructed this tower. They were always discussing it with the designers who were the students at that time. And sometimes it's just letting them know that they have materials, they have spaces, to really create some great emotional experiences for themselves. This was an outdoor room for a whole winter for a village, where they could refill these walls with wood and relit it whenever they wanted. So basically it became the central gathering space for the village at that year. But sometimes we don't have those materials, but we still have ourselves. We are always pushing on, we are always creating space with our bodies. And if we figure out ways of how to use ourselves well, then we can really create amazing learning experiences, amazing community experiences, just by rearranging ourselves. This became the starting point for our participatory processes. We design schools, and we usually, whenever we can, we do it in a participatory process. And this is how we sit. The directors, the financial manager of the school, the teachers, interior designers, landscape architects, everyone together in a democratic circle. Of course, you have to educate as well. So, Miguel, are you here? There is one of your pictures. I just realized yesterday at your presentation in the middle. So we're discussing about schools, we're discussing about architecture, and then choosing. We're asking them in traditional ways, please write the best school you want to have or draw it. I just translated one word to the waterfall. The whole thing starts with the waterfall for a child, which is like we always have these stories that then we can work on. And sustainability brings us to rethink how we use schools. This is one of our biggest projects, where the central courtyard that was very important for the school, whenever it's not school time, becomes a passage for the whole city that really doesn't have any community spaces, either indoor or outdoor. So basically this is either a school courtyard or city center, or a public space for the city. We are introducing new ways of learning through learning landscapes that are really not just corridors and classrooms, but it's very important that we still have to have classrooms in the schools. It's still one of the best ways to learn, and we still have a lot to do with those tiny spaces. So for example, for children under 10, we developed from the L-shaped classroom that is very used worldwide, the classroom with a nook and cranny where children can lie down, they can read, they can rest, the whole class can pack in that soft corner of the classroom. But we didn't have any good spaces to follow in the past 70 years of contemporary school design that really helps teachers with how to use the space. So we were working together with pedagogues, psychologists, environmental psychologists, neuroscientists to develop the turning classroom, which is a space where we can really tell the teacher where to stand, how to turn, how to organize the classes, that really is going to have an effect on the neurological pathways, which one is activated, and helps learning a bit more. We are not that brave to just design it and say that, okay, that's it, that's how it's going to be. So we built it and tested it, and now we are refining it. But basically this is how we would approach schools right now, that you have in-between spaces, both indoors and outdoors, but you have turning classrooms for children from 10 up until they go to university, with more and more control in the rooms as they develop. But we're working in an environment where it's quite tricky to introduce these new things. Old is always better than the new was just said 2 weeks ago by the Prime Minister's semi-minister. I don't know real English word, who is working with architects and architecture. So we have to come up with ideas to be able to introduce in the old, where nothing is allowed that can be seen as new, where this is what has to stay as the picture, but still in the interior use those learning landscape, use those classrooms with the protection of the old ones, and sometimes subtracting and sometimes adding. We do that in small scale, as I showed you. Our biggest adventure last year was a really large scale, a completely new university campus. It was an invitational competition for the center of Budapest, and we are tiny, so we were working with other tiny ones. We were the Davids against Goliath. But there we were also introducing these new learning ideas, but now for university students, where for different learning methods, we created the spaces. We learned from international examples, but we also added the ones that we have been researching for the past 15 years. And creating a really strong spatial control for everyone when connecting these spaces. And contradiction, Andy Warhol, new things are always better than old things. This is a tiny school for a Croatian community in Hungary, but they said that they stayed Croatian for 350 years as a small village because they were always up front of the Hungarian villages around. So that's how they were able to keep this strong self-confidence. And they said that we want all your innovations that you design for big schools but we're only designing a school for 200 children. So we have the nooks and crannies in an old building with the transformation of an old building, but we have the turning classrooms in the new. And the whole process is about learning. So the children were so excited that they're gonna have the first turning classroom that we designed a weekend workshop for them when we were playing outside, when they started the construction with measuring out where their classroom will be. And we started using the space already. We moved the furniture and started together with the teachers and the students to be prepared of how to use it the best way pedagogically. Of course, Corona touched us as well. We like to go and build and work with children. But if you're interested, we have 3 workshops or courses, both in Hungarian and in English, on our website. That because so many schools contacted us to still reach the children in their homes. And right now, as the biggest new adventure is that after 11 years of working on really pushing the national legislation and curricula, since the beginning of September, we are educating pedagogues, kindergarten pedagogues and teachers who are going to work with children, and they're going to be empowered with how to use the built environment as a learning tool and how to take good care of the built environment as a learning tool. And this is a kindergarten pedagogues. I gave them buildings from the past 100 years and asked them to explain them to children. And this is one kindergarten pedagogue's explanation of Pompidou, which I completely fell in love. So I believe that if we're working together, they can also help us. So it's not just architects, but teachers, and of course everyone, but from teachers, children learn. And that's how together we are becoming clever enough to really build spaceships out of wood and framing whatever is important to us in our spaces. So yes, Mark, if you would, I would love you to have your pictures, and if you even help me with some words that you would frame them, it would be amazing. I promise I take good care of it. Thank you very much, Beta, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Andras. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. It was wonderful. I'm wondering about the idea of learning beyond school and beyond university, and how if you found some spaces that really help encouraging learning, then maybe these notions should be pushed into our further life beyond university and beyond school, that because we are always going to be learning if we, or we should be maybe.
I completely agree. For example, with the Basel School, we're working with the schools, not for their schoolyards, but for close environmental spaces or parks where everyone can use these spaces, and we are developing a workbook that is gonna be there for everyone, so anyone can use it. Right now, currently we're working with 7 schools, but then we're going to move on to a bigger project with the same initiative for national heritage sites, either natural or built. We were asked to design for all 76 that are there, that students are visiting, to in the next 5 years to design a special space with a special curriculum or for those. And then I'm really hoping that in 10 years almost every school in Hungary will have this kind of outdoor learning space that has, and of course that's gonna influence the indoors as well. So we are going now from the cheaper and but still completely missing curricula to back to the schools, and then transforming the indoor spaces. But it should be open source and it should be available for everyone, and we're doing it that way.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for this presentation. It's inspirational, very in huge amount. I was wondering if you were collaborating with Scouts, perhaps, because they have this strong learning by doing principle, and I think it kind of fits well with a lot of things here.
Yeah, actually, we just finished the design process for the National Scout Center. So yes, we are. So that was.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question, or maybe just a reflection for us. I was wondering that if in your researches with the pedagogist and maybe psychologist you consulted during the process, I was wondering, what did you find out? What is more important? Is it for the classrooms? Is it the flexibility item that is important to be assured of, or is it the necessity to make the space suitable for appropriation and personalization for the children? Because these two are not so well working together, and your schemes showed rather that you prefer the flexibilization.
I would answer if looking at a whole school. So the most important thing is to have very well-defined learning spaces with different learning methodologies. Have nooks and crannies, in learning space architecture we call these watering holes, amphitheaters, fireplaces, and caves. These are the 4 archetypes of learning, and they are all connected to learning methodologies. So have all of these in school, and then children can go around. So don't try to provide everything in the classroom. So in the classroom, for now and for sure a couple of tens of years, you still have to be able to do frontal presentations like this, and don't work too much with flexibility. That's why, for example, in the L-shaped classroom, it's 2 very well-defined spaces, and the teacher is just choosing one or the other to use with the children. So it's not that you're rearranging the classroom all the time. But work on a school level and try to provide a wide variety that's existing and not just existing through transformation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andras.